Hello everyone and welcome back to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Batwoman Season 2 Episode 6, otherwise entitled Do Not Resuscitate. If you have not seen this episode, make sure you do so before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So let's discuss. So I have not reviewed Batwoman since the first episode of Season 2 aired back a few weeks ago, and honestly up until a couple of days ago I actually hadn't seen the other episodes. I actually hadn't caught up on them. Just because I've kind of been in a weird place at the moment with the DC TV shows, as I haven't really had a good or particularly nice way of watching the shows in a way that feels good. And to be honest, it's still not the best solution right now. So it's still not perfect, which is why my reviews haven't been consistent this year, you know, at least so far. Like, I haven't seen any of Black Lightning, for example, Black Lightning Season 4. I haven't seen the first episode of Superman and Lois yet either. But I am now fully caught up with Batwoman, so given the fact that Episode 6 just came out, I thought I might as well review it while I'm actually ahead of the curve. But my thoughts on Batwoman Season 2 so far, just to give you a sort of generalized review so far. I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun. I'm enjoying a lot of the storylines. I'm surprised by the pace of the season. I thought that this first half in particular would be quite slow, especially with, you know, them adjusting to the new lead and, you know, other characters who are very much related to Kate having to find their own stories and stuff like that. But I feel like it's happening quite organically, so I'm quite pleased with that. So I am enjoying the season so far, and, you know, particularly I've enjoyed a lot of these just episodes as they are. I think they've been delving into the backstory of Ryan quite nicely. We got the introduction of Victor Zsasz as well. He was great. I absolutely loved Zsasz in episode 3. I thought he was great. So it's doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm enjoying what the season has been doing so far. But I will say, in terms of this episode, this is probably my least favourite episode of the season thus far. For me, this episode, I think, was just a little bit slow and a little bit meandering. Like, it felt like there wasn't really much happening in this episode overall. But I will dive into all the major storylines, as we always do in these reviews. So kicking off, we have the storyline with Ryan and Angelique. Of course, Ryan is still suffering from the kryptonite poisoning after she got shot by Tommy Elliott at the first episode of the season. And the poisoning from the kryptonite has just been getting worse and worse and worse. And in this episode, it really comes to a head as we kind of see this really bring her down from not being able to suit up. You know, there's a situation where she has to go and save Mary and Jacob, but she just can barely get into the suit. You know, she pretty much collapses before she can get into the suit. So Ryan's poisoning is definitely playing a bigger role in the season than I thought it was going to, especially because it happens in the first episode, then they kind of ignore it for a couple episodes, and then it came back. So it's definitely coming back into the storyline more than I thought it was going to, but given the fact that we know that obviously she can basically be cured by the Desert Rose from Coryana, which is of course the island where Sapphire is from, it kind of makes sense why they're still keeping it around, because it's kind of tying everything together. Like Coryana and Sapphire, who Sapphire is seemingly the main antagonist of the season, it's all tying together around that, so it makes sense. But the stuff with Ryan and Angelique, you know, the character of Angelique I think is quite interesting. Like, their relationship, their dynamic is quite interesting, because we do see the fact that Ryan does actually get her a job at the bar that she works at, and, you know, she basically says, no, I don't want the job, you know, I'm quite happy doing what I do as a drug dealer, you know, I'm actually quite good at it, so it's something I want to keep doing. And you can see that Ryan doesn't want her to live that life, and she wants her to kind of get out of it, so she gets her a job at the Hold-Up, but it isn't really that appealing to Angelique, at least at this point right now. One thing I will say about the Hold-Up, which is the name of the bar, the one thing that's interesting about it is that they just don't really seem to be doing much with it. I was kind of expecting it to be more of a big player, you know. It was supposed to be Ryan's day job that kind of, you know, it is her civilian identity. She works at a bar. But I believe up until this point, and still to this point, we still haven't actually seen the bar open on a night with them actually serving in it. Like, all the scenes we've seen of the Hold-Up has been characters interacting in the bar after it's closed or before it's open. So that is a little weird. I was kind of expecting to see a bit more, perhaps, you know, nightlife at the bar and whatnot, and actually seeing some more of the goings on there. But right now it seems to be just like this thing that's just kind of there, and it's not really serving much of a purpose, outside of just having this, you know, thing for the character. It's not terrible or anything, it's not holding the season back or anything like that. It's just something I thought we'd see a bit more of. But we do have Sophie approach Ryan in the Hold-Up and basically asking her to bug Angelique's phone, pretty much, so that they can potentially get to Ocean, which will then obviously get them to the Jack Napier painting, which will then lead them to the map of Coryana. And this was, you know, we kind of knew where this was going because we knew there was going to end in a big argument between Ryan and Angelique, and it does. And it kind of ends with them pretty much in a rocky space. Like, obviously, their relationship so far, from what we know of it, is pretty rocky already. So to kind of throw this into the mix was definitely not a good sign. And, you know, it's understandable why Angelique is upset, but it's also understandable from Ryan's point of view. Like, we know Sophie basically didn't really give her much of a choice. And we know Sophie and Ryan are kind of at odds at the moment as well. So there's a lot of conflict and a lot of drama going on between the characters at the moment. And the Ryan and Angelique relationship, it's one that is definitely a lot more interesting than what I was expecting it to be. Like, when they brought this character back in, I kind of thought there was going to be, I don't know, I guess a bit more dry drama. But here, there's actually a bit more interesting stuff going on than what I was expecting. So that's nice to see. Now, we also have Mary and Jacob get kidnapped in this episode, as the episode opens with these doctors trying to come up with a cure for all these different diseases, because we know that the Desert Rose cure that Mary had and that Hamilton Dynamics came up with, the antidote, obviously not only cured people from the bat toxin that was released by Alice, but also could cure cancers and things like that. And they're trying to replicate that cure. And they kind of send this mental patient who has brain cancer to try and get the antidote out of Mary, even though obviously we know it doesn't really exist, at least not in the same form, because we don't have the Desert Rose anymore, at least not a new sample of it. And this was pretty good stuff, actually. You know, seeing Mary and Jacob together, we don't really get many scenes with them, given the fact they are father and daughter. It was kind of, you know, I was expecting a bit more from them. But we don't really get a lot of scenes with them together, so it was quite nice to have this, even if it were under unfortunate circumstances. But the big thing that really comes out of this is that we do have Jacob actually finding out about Mary's clinic. And this leads to another big drama point in the episode, because we do have Jacob finding out about it, and he shuts down the clinic at the end of the episode, or at least that's what he says he's going to do. We don't actually see him do it in this episode, because it pretty much ends at this point, but, you know, we do see him basically say, you know, I'm shutting it down. I know you're doing it for good reasons. I know your heart's in the right place, but so was your mother. And we find out that, you know, Mary's mother, Catherine Hamilton, was actually doing human experiments through Hamilton Dynamics, and they were like these secret, you know, super secret tests and stuff like that. And she's saying, yeah, your mum was in the right place as well, and then look what happened. We don't need the same thing happening to another Hamilton. But obviously we know that Mary wouldn't really go down that path. But we are seeing Jacob going to shut down the clinic, which is definitely annoying. Like, Jacob, you know, I was saying in my Season 1 review of Batwoman, I was kind of worried about Jacob in Season 2, like, what kind of role he was going to play. And he's kind of just being a little bit annoying. Like, him shutting down the clinic is just like, come on, dude. Like, she's clearly doing good things. And, you know, her heart is clearly in the right place for it. Like, just, can you not just turn a blind eye? Like, I understand you're a cop. Like, I understand you're the leader of the Crows. You're basically the head of the justice system, as far as the police are concerned, in Gotham. Like, it is illegal what she's doing, but then at the same time, you're kind of turning a blind eye to Batwoman at the moment. So can you not really turn a blind eye to your own daughter? Like, it's just a little bit bizarre to me, a little bit sad. Like I said, even though he's really technically completely within his rights to shut it down, because he is a withholder of justice, and she is breaking the law, it's just a little bit confusing when he's also kind of not going full-fledged on Batwoman right now. So it's just a little bit of a contradiction in that way. But, you know, I did enjoy seeing these scenes with Mary and Jacob together, and it was quite nice to see. And ultimately it does end up with Sophie finding them and finding the painting, but then the painting is unfortunately taken by this other group, which appear to be the same doctors who were at the beginning of the episode, who were searching for the cure. So I feel like that's, again, all going to tie together. It's not entirely clear who these doctors are. I'm wondering if they're part of another gang, like maybe they are part of the False Face Society that we know are playing a role in this season, because we know that Black Mask is going to be in the season. I think Black Mask is the leader of the False Face Society in this show, so that could tie back into that, because otherwise these doctors are kind of just these renegade people who we didn't really know about. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up as part of the False Face Society, and then again that'll be how Black Mask comes into the season. But you know, I thought the Mary and Jacob stuff was pretty good from what we got of it. It was nice to see some scenes of them together, and it really did push the story forward the most out of everything else in this episode. And then we also had the storyline with Alice and Ocean. Now, Alice and Ocean, obviously, this sort of pairing, this dynamic started in last episode, and I really enjoy these two. Alice, again, was another character I was very worried about going into Season 2, just because she's so specifically tied to Kate. And, you know, I've really enjoyed finding out a bit more about her backstory, like finding out about this Sophia character, the island of Coriana. You know, this is where she basically learned how to be a killer, because that was one kind of grey area in her backstory that we kind of got from season 1. Like, we know, you know, how she was mentally broken, you know, we saw her entire childhood in that way, but we never really found out, you know, how she became such a skilled killer and a skilled fighter. But turns out she kind of went to this mysterious island, and this is where she met Sophia, and it's very reminiscent to me of, like, racial. Now, one final point before I wrap up this review. One thing I'm not unsure about this season is this storyline with Kane continuing. They seem to be playing this waiting game with the character of Kate, where they're saying, oh, she's dead, but she might be alive. You've got characters like Mary and Luke who are kind of truly coming to terms with the fact that she might be dead, but then Sophia is saying, no, I didn't take down the plane, she's still alive, in fact she's here on the island, if you kill Ocean, I will give you Kate. So they're kind of playing this back and forth game with Kate's life, like, is she still alive, is she not? And we don't know, and I'm not entirely sure what the goal is here, like, I'm not entirely sure what the writers are going for with the storyline, because is this them trying to just wait out until Ruby Rose comes back, or is this going somewhere? Because to me, this storyline kind of feels like they don't want to completely write out the possibility that Kate is dead and that Ruby will never come back. But then, what if Ruby does never come back? Because then, in that case, you're just going to have to confirm that she is dead, and then this whole storyline of this season is kind of going to be a waste of time. Because that's kind of what this storyline is at the moment. Like, we have Alice trying to go after Sophia so she can get to Kate, and then you have Sophie and Ryan and the Bat Team and the Crows, well, more so Sophie and Jacob, going after this Napier painting so they can get to Ocean, so they can get to Coriana, and then get to Sophia so they can get Kate. So it's all kind of tying around, like, this whole storyline really is based around getting to Sophia so they can get to Kate. But if Kate and Ruby are never coming back to the show, which I personally don't think they ever will, what this storyline is kind of completely pointless, and it kind of just feels like we were just meandering. And obviously we are going to get to the point where Ryan will be cured, because she can get the Desert Rose and then be cured from the kryptonite poisoning. But again, this Kate storyline is so big and monumental, it's going to feel really pointless that by the end of the season she's going to be just dead, and it's going to be really weird. And this whole Sophia thing was kind of bullshit. So I don't know exactly what's going on with this storyline, and I kind of hope they drop it sooner rather than later, because I just can't see Ruby ever coming back to the show, not in any large way. Like, she could come back for like an episode here or there, if she is actually alive, but will she ever come back to the show full time? Like, will she ever be Batwoman again as like a series regular? No. And also, that would be really disrespectful to Javicia Leslie, who's just joined the show as Ryan Wilder as the new Batwoman, to just completely cast her aside again when she's just gone through the casting process and being Batwoman. It'd be really shitty to just get rid of her, you know, when Kate comes back. So, you know, I feel like that this storyline with Kate, they need to decide what they want to do with it. Is she dead or is she not? Make that decision and then move on. Because this back and forth is starting to annoy me a little bit, and it's getting me worried about this storyline, like this season-long storyline as a whole. So overall, like I said, this episode was kind of uneventful, like not a lot happened. We did have the stuff with Mary and Jacob, which then led to the story progressing a little bit with the painting getting into the hands of potentially the False Face Society, which again could lead us to Black Mask. So there is that, but the stuff with like Ryan and Angelique was just kind of a bit more drama based. And then the stuff with Ocean and Alice, I did enjoy that storyline, but again, not much majorly happened. It's kind of more of a setup for what's going to happen in the next episode, I assume. So it was a little bit uneventful. So with that said, I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10. Not a terrible episode, but not a particularly great or memorable one. And as I said at the beginning, this is my least favourite episode of the season thus far. So there you have it, guys. There's my review for Batwoman Season 2, Episode 6. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. And if you want to see more DC TV and Arrowverse reviews just like this, make sure you stay tuned. I should have a review for The Flash Season 7, Episode 1 coming up in the next couple days, as well as my review for the next episode of Superman and Lois, if I can catch up in that time. So please stay tuned to the channel, and I hope you did enjoy this video, and I hope to see you guys again next time.